Investor Julian Robertson believes valuations are very high and that we are creating a bubble. Do you agree?
Bubbles are usually easier to diagnose in hindsight than they are when they're occurring. I'm certainly not going to dispute the view of certainly an investor with a remarkable long-term track record and far more market history than I have. I don't dispute his findings in any way, because there are certain aspects of the market that seem, if not to be a bubble, but I would say valuations on many fronts are fairly stretched. I think this is all fairly much predicated on the fact that you have central banks, some would say artificially depressing yields, and that then spills into everything else. Why? It all starts with yields, and so if you're an investor hunting for yield, well, you're gonna move further and further out the risk curve. That's kind of what the central banks are trying to do. And also, if you make money very easy, inflation is going to happen somewhere. Well, some of that inflation is spilling into the stock market, since we're not really seeing it in the goods market. And so that money finds a home, and I think as long as you have very accommodative central banks, you're still going to find people deciding that there is no alternative, and we're gonna stay invested in the markets. Another thought might be people holding off, figuring that if there's going to be some tax relief, whether it's in their income tax rates, which affects short-term capital gains, or longer-term capital gains, they may be holding off from selling. And that strategy has been reinforced by the fact that the markets have been going up. So why sell now if it's going to get better for you later, both either in taxes or in pricing? But going back to the bubble question, if we are in a bubble, I think it will become very evident later on. I do think the biggest risk is that being so dependent upon loose money from central banks, that as they're talking about tapering, which may be a bit more hypothetical than actual, whether the ECB tapers its purchases, whether the Fed starts to actively reduce its balance sheet and the timing thereof. That's one of those things that if you remove the central banks as the marginal force in the market, that could make someone look back and say, well, it was all a bubble inflated by central banks. In the short term, though, I'll leave him to his opinion. And while I can't dispute it, I can't necessarily say whether he's right or wrong.